I work for ANZ at the moment. ANZ's work in agricultural is primarily in Australia, but having come from previous banks, Rabo particularly, which had a lot of work in Asia and Africa, so some background in that. Are there criteria for this kind of thing? I'll take it back. In 2008, for any of you who've ever been to New York in about October, I think the UN General Assembly meets, and part of the point of the UN General Assembly meeting is so every government can try and out-motorcade every other government, and all the New Yorkers can get grumpy about how it shuts down the whole city and the traffic and there are snipers everywhere, and the UN loves it and the rest of us who live there hated it. But 2008, on the edge of the General Assembly when all the presidents came in, there was a sort of unreported gathering, relatively unreported, Kelly might know about it, where representatives of a number of governments and their agricultural agencies sat down, representatives of bodies like the Food and Agricultural Organisation, a number of the other UN bodies all sat down together, and basically I was also there as a representative of the sort of commercial world in a way, and the corporate world. And the aim of that meeting was basically this, to say with that discussion, right, how can we look at a framework being set for investment guidelines? Basically, is there discussion on the formalisation of how we can, not so much restrictions, but ways that the corporate world can be monitored in what they're doing here. It was a fascinating meeting, because so much of it was about, and representatives from everyone from the Chinese, the Japanese governments, African governments, America, Australia, was watching a number of governments basically eyeing off other countries where they saw potential agricultural development would happen. What came out of that? It's something I'm sure we'll discuss in the rest of this. Not that much formally so far. It is an ongoing discussion. It is something where a formal framework is very much still being discussed in the UN and other places. And I'll wrap up in a sec. But as far as something like a financial institution like the one I'm in, if it was looking at a project like that, what would be, say, 4 things that would really impact how much it looked at investing in the locals, the local landholders? It would be the current existing and the growing amount of regulatory issues, laws, whether they be European laws, American laws. It's an area that people here have a great amount of expertise in, that really restrict how much financial institutions from developed countries can invest in these places. And that's why so much of the investment in this in questionable places is shifting to, say, sovereign funds and perhaps other developing country banks, which are less applicable to these. Part of it is a financial return. Obviously, it has to make sense, and long-term, and I go back to the farming part, it has to be sustainable. Things cannot be long-term sustainable in agriculture unless they have social cohesion, human rights, and the involvement of all players in the value chain. Agriculture is not a short-term program. The third part of it would be the role of stakeholders, whether it's shareholder activists, the media, interest groups as well. And the fourth part that needs to be acknowledged for an increasing amount of, I'm not an apologist for a number of financial institutions, but increasingly from the developed world, if it is not right, they won't go near it.